everyone for joining us on this webinar brought to you by the Ethical Hacker Network, a free online magazine and community for security professionals. Now, we've all heard these stories of the millions of available jobs in InfoSec that go unfilled because of a lack of qualified applicants. And our guest, Peter Schawacker of Deloitte, can attest to this not only in his own organization, but also those that he serves.
Currently I'm senior manager at Deloitte, which means that I run managers that run projects. Using Tripwire to detect intrusions or to deal with intrusions is like applying a Band-Aid to a second chest wound. Band-Aid is a trade name. I can't write it down, but for compliance reasons. But the point is that we spend an awful lot of time applying Band-Aids to things when we really need to take more decisive action. You know, who is stuck with doing this work as well? We have people whose job it is to monitor the much vaunted 20 events per analyst hour. Thanks Chris Calvert for that metric. Those are what we call SOC analysts. We have people who have the title hunter, whose job really is to dig through data. The internet was never intended to be secure. We know that. Even when we do try and secure it, we create new problems, like the fact that we can't monitor stuff that's encrypted very easily. Like PKI is not built into this thing. DNS, I mean, thank goodness for Dan Kaminsky, man. Where would we be without that guy and his work around DNS? And I could go on and on. We're all trying to deal with really lousy engineering. And part of the problem is, as I mentioned, like with the Canadian licensure case, we don't really do engineering in security. We do something that we call engineering, but it lacks the discipline. One of the things we don't do is we don't design tests. We disconnect pen testing, which is really important, from the other side. Now, purple teaming is a major step in the right direction. I'm a huge fan of purple teaming, but even it is not precise enough to be considered engineering. Next, here are some examples of things that we see over and over again. One is a now classic anti-phishing use case. This is the one that like every sort of product leads with. One of the neat things about it is that it doesn't necessarily require SIM. It requires email. Another that we see over and over again is malware verification, like checking to see if certain conditions are in place, and then containing or getting additional information from the host. This is usually very closely connected to EDR and things like forensic tools. DLP is another one. DLP is notoriously difficult, and it's usually difficult because the question about false positives is put in the hands of people who don't understand the people who are involved.
So I just want to remind people that there are plenty of other places to get experience as well as practical training, and whether it's eLearn Security or somewhere else, that's where you get those small details. But then don't ever forget, and maybe we need to put an extra bullet on here, is where do I start to train on some of those things that are uniquely human? And some of those things could be an improv group, or doing stand-up comedy, or writing, giving talks. There are things that put you in situations that you can actually learn from, either your fear or something that may rise to what we would call an incident. But put yourself in those situations, and trust me, you will learn not only how to handle yourself and be a quick thinker, but then also maybe eventually how to communicate that better with somebody else. So with that, we thank you for joining us on EHNet Live, and we will see you next time.